Item 10C, adopt a resolution approving a contract with Pacific Gas and Electric Company, PG&E, in the amount of $37,109 for engineering, tie-in, and meters and inspection fees related to the streetlight loop conversion in the Crestmoor neighborhood.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Harry Burrows, and I'm the city's project manager for the Crestmoor reconstruction project. The item before you tonight is a contract with PG&E to provide services related to the streetlight replacement within the Crestmoor Glenview neighborhood. That, just to be clear, that's the Crestmoor 2 neighborhood. The repair and replacement of the streetlight system is part of the overall reconstruction system. The city committed to the neighborhood to explore the replacement of the streetlights with new decorative LED streetlights. The existing streetlights within the neighborhood are typical of a lot of the residential neighborhoods within San Bruno, which are the 25-foot tall poles with the cobra heads. What's proposed within the neighborhood is a series of decorative 16-foot tall streetlights with what are called acorn tops or post tops, very similar to and look very similar to what's in downtown San Bruno along San Mateo Avenue. The streetlights are shorter. The new streetlights are shorter than the existing streetlights, and because of that, the spacing needs to be increased. The current design for the streetlight system has new streetlights essentially placed midpoint between the existing streetlight locations that are out there. So the new system will put new decorative streetlight poles in the locations where the existing tall streetlights are, and then midpoint between them will be new poles as well. So it increases, essentially doubles the amount of streetlights within the neighborhood to 95 total. So we have about 42 new locations of streetlights within the neighborhood, and staff has done a significant amount of outreach and discussion with the folks who are going to get the new streetlights in front of their houses. Out of those 40 plus new locations, there are currently 2 residents that have some concerns, objections to those locations. We've tried to work with many of the residents to adjust them. Unfortunately, as you can imagine, when you adjust one location, it has a cascading effect throughout the rest of the neighborhood. There's at least in these 2 locations, we've talked with our streetlight designer, and they don't feel comfortable eliminating the streetlights in these locations. One's in the middle of a curve, and for safety reasons, they would prefer that streetlight remain. So we still have some resolution that's needed at those 2 locations prior to us installing those streetlights. The other thing is, this new streetlight system, in addition to providing new poles and lamps, we will be replacing the 2 regulated output circuits within the neighborhood that are, as I believe the council is well aware, subject to frequent outages and heavy maintenance. So part of the project will include replacement with direct circuits of those older regulated output circuits. The contract before you is with PG&E to provide engineering to do the actual connections with the new direct circuits and the meters, and to provide inspection services for the work that's being done. Our consultant, our streetlight consultant, has reviewed their contract, as well as staff has reviewed it, and we feel that it is ordinary and customary for work of this type. As I said, the streetlights are part of the Phase 4, what we're calling the Phase 4 improvement project, surface restoration project for the neighborhood. That project is in final design stages right now. We're trying to get that project advertised later this month or the beginning of March. The current schedule is to award the contract in the first meeting of April. That would have construction starting on or around May 1st or shortly thereafter. We anticipate that it's going to be about a 9-month construction period, so that'll put completion of this project into the first quarter of 2017. The last project beyond this within the neighborhood, as part of the core neighborhood reconstruction projects, is the replacement of the Earl Glenview Park and the replanting of the upper canyon, Crestmoor Canyon. That project, just last week, last Wednesday, we held the first planning meeting, what we call a visioning meeting, with the community for that park. A follow-up meeting is scheduled in March. There will probably be at least one meeting or two meetings after that. That will culminate in a concept park plan that will be brought back to the council, hopefully sometime late summer. After that, we're hoping to go into final design for the park, with the park construction then kicking off shortly after or dovetailing into the end of the surface improvement project within the neighborhood. With that, I conclude my presentation and welcome any questions.
Any questions for Harry at this time? Ken?
Thank you. Harry, I find it hard to believe that for 95 new streetlights, the PG&E is only charging $37,000 in addition to inspection and engineering and such. It's like, where else are they going to get paid? I mean, is that going to be passed on to maybe not the ratepayers, but possibly the city? As far as that new infrastructure?
Yeah.
I mean, are they amortizing it over a time or something?
Yeah. So the actual work that PG&E is, the contract is for engineering, for what's called tie-ins and meters, and for inspection during construction. The actual physical work that needs to be done, well, first off, the engineering was done by our consultant primarily as a applicant design project. So PG&E didn't really do the design work themselves. They just checked the design and blessed it, signed off on it, okay? Our consultant's a registered electrical engineer, and it's called an applicant design process, and it's done fairly frequently. So that saved us some money. Additionally, the physical work that PG&E has to do out in the field is really just connecting some wires together and putting a meter in. It's not a whole lot of work that PG&E crews will have to do. Most of the conduits, new electrical wires, pole boxes, and everything to support the new streetlight system will be done by the city's contractor.
Okay. A related question is that, as we get closer to finalizing the, restoration of this neighborhood, and you've updated us on the park, and now the lights and stuff. How does this affect the infrastructure, the surface infrastructure, like the sidewalks and the curbs? Because there's been some concern amongst us that maybe we don't need to replace the entire surface infrastructure, and if that's being at least discussed or considered.
Well, currently the plans are to replace the curb gutter sidewalk and redo the streets as part of the surface restoration project. We are right now, and this is one of the reasons we're not out to bid as we speak. I would love to be out to bid right now, but we're doing what I call value engineering. We're going through our design right now to see what areas we can, I won't say cut back on, but maybe do differently to save money. That includes things like, instead of doing a full reconstruction of the roadway, which is what the original design was and recommended by the geotechnical engineer originally, to go in and essentially dig out the road down to a depth of about 12 plus inches, bring in rock, compact it, rock trucks and water trucks and graders in the street, and then put the paving on top of it, which, as you can imagine, is going to be very disruptive to the residents, especially when you can visualize that road being torn up with everyone having to get in and out of their driveways at the same time at the end of the days. We're going to bid, including in the bid, an alternative called cold in place recycling, which is a process where you have a machine that essentially goes through, chews up the asphalt in the front end, out the back end, it mixes it with new asphalt and enters into a paver, and out of the back end comes a nice new asphalt. So that's one of the things we're exploring as part of this. Unfortunately, we have looked into alternatives for replacing the curb gutter and sidewalk, but because we have to rebuild back the driveways to meet ADA, American with Disabilities Act requirements, it's very difficult for us to rebuild back what's out there. So we're having to replace it.
Hopefully, the neighborhood understands that, because that's just as disruptive, I'm sure. Thank you.
Anything else? Any action on this item?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Councilmember
Hold
Rivera.
different clerk. Aye.
Councilmember Medina. Councilmember Rico Medina.
He says aye. Aye. Yeah.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Marty Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Thank you.